Hello guys, this is Sunita. Welcome to your class. Today we are going to do our chapter 5 Mother's Day from Snapshot for class 11. It is written by J.B. Presley. This is a play. The genre of this chapter this is a play. It is a humorous portrayal of the status of mother in a family. Let us read on to how Mrs. Pearson's family react when she tries to stand up for her own rights. So the main motive of writing this play is to show the status of a female member in the family, that what is to be what has been suffered by a female. The main characters of the family means of the play: Mrs. Annie Pearson means Mrs. Pearson. Here is George Pearson, Mr. Pearson. Doris is the daughter of the family, and Cyril is the son of the family. Here Mrs. Fitzgerald is the neighbor of Mr. and Mrs. Pearson. The action takes place in the living room of Pearson's house in a London suburb. Suburb is a outer part of the city. The time is the present. Scene: the living room of the Pearsons family. Afternoon. The afternoon time is going on. It is comfortably furnished. The living room is completely furnished and much lived in room in a small suburban semi-detached villa. Now living room is the room of the only room of the house which is most useful in a semi-urban semi-detached villa. Suburban, the I told you, the outer part, it is situated in the outer part of the city. If necessary, only one door need be used, but it is better with two. One up left leading to the front door. The house has two doors. One leads to the front door and the stairs. The other leads to the right wall leading to the kitchen and the back door. There can be a muslin covered window. Muslin covered window means curtains, muslin curtains which have covered the window, the left window as well as the right window too. The fireplace is assumed to be in the fourth wall, means in front. There is a settee up. Settee up means a sofa, right? An armchair down left and one down right. Total two armchairs have been shown here. A small table with two chairs on either side, means a small table has been shown. One chair this side, one chair this side. So one chair either side of it stands at the center. When the curtain rises, it is an afternoon in early autumn. The season is autumn season and the stage can be well lit, means काफी रोशनी है stage पर. Mrs. Pearson at right and Mrs. Fitzgerald at left are sitting opposite each other at a small table on which are two teacups and saucers and the cards with which Mrs. Fitzgerald had been telling Mrs. Pearson's fortune. Here we have a picture. Here this is Mrs. Fitzgerald and this is Mrs. Pearson. They are sitting opposite to each other. And here is a small table which has been talked about here. Mrs. Pearson is a pleasant but worried looking woman in her 40s. The age of the lady has been shown here. She is in her 40s. Mrs. Fitzgerald is older, heavier, and a strong, sinister personality. She is smoking. It is very important that these two should have sharply contrasting voices. Mrs. Pearson speaking in a light, flurried sort of tone. Why she is speaking? What do you mean by flurried tone? Means quite confused because of overwork. And the personalities of both Mrs. Pearson and Mrs. Fitzgerald, they are quite opposite to each other. One is very polite but worried, and the other one is very strong and she has a deep voice, rather Irish. Now, this Mrs. Pearson speaks with a cockney touch, means the touch which is found in the people of East England, and Mrs. Fitzgerald speaks with an Irish touch in her English. Now, see, you can see the this Mrs. Fitzgerald, she looks quite confident and very strong personality. But here on the other side, Mrs. Pearson, she looks quite worried here. So the conversation is here. Mrs. Fitzgerald, she collects her cards, and that's all I can tell you. Mrs. Pearson, could be a good fortune, could be a bad one. All depends on yourself now. Make up your mind, and that it is. She tells her fortune to Mrs. Pearson, and she announces it that whatever the fortune will be, it depends on herself only, because she can only make her own fortune. Now, Mrs. Pearson, yes, thank you, Mrs. Fitzgerald. I'm much obliged. I'm sure it's wonderful having a real fortune teller living next door. Did you learn that out east too? East has been used here because at that time the British had the rule over us, and we were the east of these western countries. So here east has been used for our countries. Mrs. Pearson asked about her all this fortune telling guts. So here Mrs. Fitzgerald is answering. I did 12 years. I had of it with my old man. Who is old man here? He is Mr. Fitzgerald, husband of Mrs. Fitzgerald. Rising to be lieutenant quartermaster, he was posted in British Army unofficially. He learnt a lot and I learnt a more. And Mrs. Fitzgerald कहती है कि उन्होंने काफ़ी सीखा, but I learnt more than my husband. But will you make up your mind now, Mrs. Pearson dear? Put your foot down. Put your foot down is an idiom here, and it means to be strict. Means now you need to be very strict. Put your foot down once and once. She to here initially it has been told that she has an Irish touch in her speaking, so she speak an instead of this. And means here is our and. Wherever and will be written, you are to understand it. This is and for all, and be the best mistress of your own house and the boss of your own family. She makes her understand that you need to be strict now and you need to be the boss of your family. Mrs. Pearson, smiling apologetically, means she feels sorry. That's easier said than done. Besides, I'm so fond of them, even if they are so thoughtless and selfish. They don't mean to be. Here, the sacrifices of a lady has been shown. See the sentence of Mrs. Pearson. Although she knows that her husband and her children, they are so thoughtless and so selfish, they don't take care of her, but still she is very fond of them, and she finds herself to be strict. It's very difficult for her to be strict with them, although they don't care for her. Mrs. Fitzgerald, cutting. Maybe not. But it would be better for them if they learned to treat you properly. And this here again, Mrs. Fitzgerald, as her character has been shown so strong, and she somewhere believes in justice. So she makes her friend understand that whatever you are saying, it's fine. But they need to learn it, that how you are to be treated, how you should be treated properly. They should learn it, and that they let them learn. Mrs. Pearson, yes, I suppose it would in a way. Mrs. Fitzgerald again, no doubt about it at all. Who's the better for being spoiled, grown man or lad or girl? Now, who's the better means for being spoiled means सबसे ज़्यादा बिगड़ा हुआ कौन है? The grown man, आपके husband, your led means your son or the girl. Nobody. You think it doesn't them good when you run after them all the time. And she is making Mrs. Pearson understand that it has no use that when you run after them only and they don't take care of you. Take their orders as if you were the servant in the house. She explains the situation, what is going on in the house. Stay at home every night while they go out enjoying themselves. Never in all your life. It's the ruin of them as well as you husbands, sons, daughters should be taking notice of wives and mothers and giving them orders and treating them like dirt. Dirt is means something waste that no need to take care of it. And don't tell me you don't know what I mean, for I know more than you have told me. Now, Mrs. Fizzland is just explaining the situation of Mrs. Pearson's family, that what's going on, that your husband, your daughter, and your son, they don't treat you well. They just come home, they give you order, and they just treat you like a servant, and they go out the whole night. They are out of the house, they enjoy themselves, and you just stay home, you just take care of them, and they don't think you anything, and they just treat you like a dirt. So this is not good, and they should learn how to treat you. Mrs. Pearson dubiously means she is not sure that what's going on. I keep dropping a hint. So मतलब मैं कभी कभी उनको कह देती हूँ, कभी कभी उनको हिंट देती रहती हूँ that you should not do it. Mrs. Vigilant, hint? It's more than hints your family needs, Mrs. Pearson. Mrs. Pearson dubiously means again she is unsure. I suppose it is, but I do hate any unpleasantness means I don't want to quarrel with them, and it's so hard to know where to start, and I really can't understand that from where I should start. I keep making up my mind to have it out with them, but somehow I don't know how to begin. Many times I have just thought about it, that I should start to treat them harsh, treat them strictly, but really I don't know where to start. She glances at her watch or at a clock. Oh, good gracious! Means this is a surprise that she didn't notice the time, and she is surprised now that what's the time. Look at the time. Nothing ready, and they'll be home any minute, and probably in a hurry to go out again. That I haven't done anything. I haven't made the tea ready, and they any moment they can come, and they'll be in hurry. All of them, they'll be in hurry, and they had to go. They are to go out again, and I'm not done. So here Mrs. Pearson is explaining her problem. And after explaining her problem, when she wanted to just rise, she is about to rise, Mrs. Fizzland reaches out across the table, means this is the table, and here was Mrs. Pearson, here was Mrs. Fizzland. She stands up, she goes to her, and she pulls her down. वो उठने को होती हैं तो उनको खींच के दोबारा वो बिठा देती हैं. Let them wait or look after themselves for once. This is where your foot goes down. And here is the point, you should start to be strict now. Start now. She sighs, she lights a cigarette from the one she has just finished. And now Mrs. Fizzland suggests her that you just do one thing, don't do anything. You just let them take care of themselves, and you just sit down. Mrs. Pearson, embarrassed. Mrs. Fizzland, I know you mean well, that I know you want good for me. In fact, I agree with you, but I just can't, means I can't do it. I can't behave with them strictly. And it's no use trying to make me, if I promise if I promise you, I'd really have it out with them. I know I wouldn't be able to keep my promise. And now Mrs. Pearson making Mrs. Fitzgerald understand. See, Mrs. Fitzgerald, whatever you are saying, it's right, 100% right, and I also agree with you that I must treat them strictly. But अगर मैं आपको promise कर भी देती हूँ that I'll be strict with them, then again I'll not keep my words. Then it's no use. Then Mrs. Fitzgerald, let me do it. Then she said, who said? Mrs. Fitzgerald, then let me do it. मुझे करने दो इसे. Mrs. Pearson, flustered. Now she becomes confused. Oh no, thank you very much, Mrs. Fitzgerald. But that wouldn't do at all. It couldn't possibly be someone else. They are resent. They'd resent it at once and wouldn't listen, and really I couldn't blame them. I know I ought to do it, but you see how it is. She looks apologetically across the table, smiling rather miserable. Now she gets the point of Mrs. Fitzgerald, and she tries to explain to Mrs. Fitzgerald that, see, Mrs. Fitzgerald, if in place of me, if you will just ask all these things, then they would resent, means they would hate, they would not listen to you. I know it's my duty to handle all this situation, but what can I do? I can't do it. And she smiles miserably. Mrs. Fitzgerald, coolly, she is very cool personality. You haven't got the idea. Now Mrs. Pearson, bewildered. She's surprised. Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you asked me to let you do it. मैंने सोचा कि आपने मुझे ये कहा कि मुझे करने दीजिए. Mrs. Fitzgerald, I did, but not as me, as you. Mrs. Pearson, but I don't understand. You couldn't be me. Mrs. Pearson doesn't know about Mrs. Fitzgerald that she knows the magic. Mrs. Fitzgerald, coolly, we change places, or really bodies. You look like me, I look like you. And here is the secret of the school behavior of Mrs. Fitzgerald, that she knows how to change the personalities and Mrs. Pearson. But that's impossible. She doesn't know about it all, and it is quite difficult for her to trust over it. Mrs. Fitzgerald, how do you know? Ever tried it? कि तुमने try किया है? How can you say that this is impossible? Mrs. Pearson, no, of course not. Mrs. Fitzgerald, now, coolly, I have. Not for some time, but it still ought to work, won't last long. I know, I have tried it many times and it will work. I know it will not work for a long time, but whatever the time will be given by this, it will be enough for us. And of what we want to do, learn it. Our out east, of course, and I learned it to change the personality from east only, where they are up to all these tricks, where they know all these tricks. She holds her hand out across the table, keeping the cigarette in her mouth. Give your hands. Give me your hands. Here, give me your hands means give me your hands, dear Mrs. Pearson. Again, she is unsure. Well, I don't know. Is it right? And she confirms herself that whatever they are doing, is it right? Mrs. Fitzgerald, it's your only chance. Give me your hands and keep quiet a minute. Just don't think about anything. Taking her hands, now look at me. They stare at each other, muttering, Ashartha dam, Ashartha am, Ashartha lamadama. Okay, and here Mrs. Fitzgerald is starting the personality changing and all, and rest of the chapter will do tomorrow. Thank you and have a nice day, guys.